Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Friday. It is not a red Friday. It is not a blue Friday. It is not a victory Friday, but it is a Friday.
I would argue it is quite a blue Friday, actually.
It's blue to a certain definition of the term Friday here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis will be along as well. We are with you for the next 3 hours from 3 to 6 here on 580 WIBW, FM News 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in our video stream as well. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel 580 Sports Talk. Check out the live stream on our YouTube channel. You can also watch us on our Facebook page, WIBW News. Great to be with you on this Friday. Great to be back in the studio with you. It has been a long week. Monday feels like it was 2 years ago. It has been a very long week, and there has been a lot happening in the world of sports in this last week. And, of course, I was not in studio the last 2 weeks. I was out at Kauffman Stadium the last 2 nights, and I was no luck. I guess we better credential somebody else next year when the Royals are back in the postseason at home, because I didn't bring any hits with me.
I would like to
I-70.
make it known. And is it fair that this was my first thought after the final out last night? No, admittedly, it was not. But in Kansas City Royals history, they've never won a playoff game with Dan in attendance.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
I hate to bring that up. I really do.
The numbers are the numbers. Like there's nothing I could do to refute the numbers. The numbers are the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. But the Kansas City Royals' remarkable ride has come to an end. They lose to the Yankees last night, 3-1 in Game 4 of the American League Division Series, and they lose the series by that same count of 3-1. We will relive last night's action, talk about why the season has come to an end for the Royals. We'll do a fuller post-mortem next week on it, but we will today just focus on the end of the series and what we saw last night at Kauffman Stadium and what I got to see in person last night. No, I will not just be telling the story of the instance in which I shared an elevator with John Sterling. It's not a really long story, and in fact, that is the entirety of the story. I shared an elevator with John Sterling, but turn on your microphone. Your microphone was not on for that. It was
damn. That was embarrassing. I thought I sounded really good too.
Okay, so here is my John Sterling story. This is not the sharing an elevator with John Sterling story. But John Sterling, so they had catered some meals. They were in like these boxes, catered meals, sandwiches, salads, very nicely done, very, very nicely put together by the Royals concession staff. And John Sterling had one of the like sandwiches or whatever he had. And he walked over to the table where they were checking people in and out of the press level. And he said, and John Sterling sounds like John Sterling at all times.
I believe that.
Yes, there's not a radio voice of John Sterling. Longtime radio voice of the New York Yankees, if you're not aware of who I'm talking about. He is the Yankees win. That's him. That's like a 4.5 out of 10 John Sterling impression. But anyhow, he's got this sandwich in a plastic container, and he says, I would like to take this to the booth with me, but I would like a bag. Has anyone got a bag? And for some reason, one of the press box attendants had like a plastic bag. There were some golf balls in it. And he instantly just took the golf balls out of the plastic bag, gave it to John Sterling. Because it was the only plastic bag, I think, in the entire press row. But anyway.
John Sterling seems to be, that's a very funny story, by the way. Like, I bet you John Sterling at home likes a Dagwood. Like, just a comically huge sandwich. Just layer on layer on layer of
John
stuff.
Sterling just slathering different kinds of condiments on a sandwich that's like 6 inches tall. Yeah, I could see that.
Every cold cuts you've never heard of before. Like, what is that meat? Don't worry about it. It's on a John Sterling sandwich.
I could see that. Anyhow, I will have my in-person reaction. We will talk our way through the final Royals game of 2024. Lots of Royals talk coming in this 3 o'clock hour. Coming up later on the show, bottom of the 3 o'clock hour, we'll talk to Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com. It's a bye week for the Chiefs. We'll establish where the Chiefs are going into the bye at 5-0, the only unbeaten in the AFC, and get Matt's thoughts on where the season goes from here. We'll also preview some college football. K-State is in action. They're going to Boulder for the first time in, I think it's 13 years. The last time K-State played at Folsom Field, as they take on Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes on Saturday night. Stay up late for it. 9:15 is the scheduled kickoff time. Pre-game coverage on 580 WIBW and the K-State Sports Network starting at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. The burden of proof is on the Wildcats. And I'll explain what I mean by that when we get into previewing Saturday night's game. But I think even though the Colorado Buffaloes are the team with a lot of the media hype, the burden of proof is still on K-State on Saturday. We'll get into that. We'll also have our K-State player profile this week. Earlier on Monday of this week, which again feels like it was 2 years ago, but this actually happened. I talked to Hadley Panzer, the senior guard for the Kansas State Wildcats, the pride of Lakin, Kansas, which does not have a stoplight. We will talk to Hadley about growing up in Southwest Kansas and a bunch of other things, too. We'll get to know Hadley in our K-State player profile. We'll do that in the 5 o'clock hour. We have our Prairie Band Sportsbook 580 Sports Talk Picks contest continuing. The pack is tightening. We have a new leader at the top. It's not important who, but it's me. Again, not important, but I am in first place now. So we'll all give our 5 best bets for the week, sponsored by Prairie Band Sportsbook. We'll crown a weekly champion on what is wrong with you. Right now, I have a story running unopposed. So we'll see if that stays the case for the next hour and change. And we'll do Change My Mind, all the other fun stuff, headlines that you've come to know and love from an edition of 580 Sports Talk on a Friday. You can interact with the show one of 2 ways. First, the Top City Metal Supply text line is wide open, 785-272-9429. You can also, if you're watching the show live on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk is the YouTube channel. Feel free to interact with us and your fellow listeners in the YouTube live chat. Or if you're watching on Facebook, you can send us comments as well. Before we get to business, got to give you a Euro trip keyword for today. Yeah, we're giving away a 10-day trip to Europe, including sightseeing in London and Paris and Venice. And we're doing it on our website, 580WIBW.com. And you can register to win every hour today and into next week with the keyword for that hour. And so you go to 580WIBW.com. There's a link to click to register and enter on the top left of the page. And the keyword for this hour is tour. T-O-U-R, tour. As in you will have a chance to tour Europe if you win this trip. So that's
I can play Scotty Doesn't Know. Like, there's no cursing at the start of the song, but this is wildly vulgar. Like, I think this is against decency rules from the FCC, even though it's technically not explicit.
Yeah, I'm going to go with no. I think the people that know the reference are probably hearing it in their head right now, and that's going to have to be enough. I'm hearing it in my head right now.
Yeah.
All-time cameo, by the way.
Yeah, you see the word thrusting in lyrics, and you're probably limited to where you can play that song.
Yeah, let's take it easy. If we're going to violate the FCC, I have some Jazz Chisholm thoughts that we're going to get to, and so I'd rather spend our credit with the FCC on that than with Scotty Doesn't Know.
By the by, I was going to ask you this. Can you name the starting quarterbacks for K-State and Colorado the last time they played in Boulder?
Oh, great question. 2011?
2010.
Oh, 2010. Okay. No, this would have been. Wow. This wouldn't have been Cody Hawkins, would it?
It was Cody Hawkins.
It was Cody Hawkins.
It was
okay.
Indeed Cody Hawkins.
Cody Hawkins. Dan Hawkins' son was starting for Colorado.
14 for 25, 202 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Oh, wow. K-State, Carson Kaufman.
Yeah! 16 of 23, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. Colin Klein only attempted 3 passes, completed 1 of them for 40 yards. Did run the ball 12 times for 36 yards.
Look at me remembering some guys.
You know who won the game?
Believe it was. Well, I mean, it was the Dan Hawkins era Colorado team, so the money's with Kansas State being the correct answer, but I don't remember.
It was the Colorado Buffaloes. 44-36. That was a good old-fashioned Big 12 shootout back in 2010. That got Colorado to 5-6. They would the next week lose by 4 touchdowns with bowl eligibility on the line.
That sounds about right. Yeah, go play intramurals, brother. We'll get to more football on the show today, but I do want to start with baseball because the season is over for the Kansas City Royals. They fall last night to the Yankees 3-1 on a night where the Kauffman Stadium crowd was dying for something to get behind and to make some noise for, and just didn't get it from the offense for the better part of not just last night, but really the two home playoff games as a whole. All told, in their final 7 home games, last 5 regular season home games and the 2 home playoff games in this American League Division Series, the Royals scored 7 runs. That is 1 run per game. That doesn't get you anywhere good. And the biggest problem was that the big dogs didn't eat. You know, the combined batting line for Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, and Vinny Pasquantino in this series. Do you know what they win at the plate? It's in my game story up at 580WIBW.com if you would like to look for yourself.
It's in the ones.
They were 6 for 49 combined in the series. Two, 3, 4 hitters, 6 for 49 with 2 walks, 1 home run, Salvi in game 2, 2 RBI. Salvi's home run was a solo home run, and then Pasquantino drove in Witt in the 6th for the Royals' only 1 run last night.
Yep.
The Royals lineup was not deep enough to survive that. And that is kind of the epitaph, I think, for this series, that we knew all year long this was a particularly shallow Royals lineup. The beauty of a short series is that it gives some of your lesser offensive talents a chance to break out in a small sample, like we saw in the first 2 games with Garrett Hampson. Hampson, who curiously did not get an at-bat in the 2 games in Kansas City, despite going 3 for 3 in New York with 3 runs driven in. And if not for a prevailing wind blowing in from right field, maybe we're talking about MJ Melendez and Kyle Isbell as offensive heroes from a Royals victory, because Melendez hit a ball out to right field off Garrett Cole that would have been a home run in 26 of the 30 major league ballparks, but not at Kauffman Stadium. And in the 7th inning, with the Royals down 2 and a runner on and 2 out, Kyle Isbell hit a ball out to right field that would have been a home run, even with the wind blowing in, at 24 of the 30 major league ballparks. But not at that park, not on that night. The Royals' threat went begging. They never seriously threatened against a Yankee bullpen that did not allow an earned run in the series. And the Royals are going home because it was not a deep enough lineup to survive the 3 best hitters in the lineup not producing.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that the bullpen for the Royals was really good. It wasn't flawless, but it was really good. I mean, you give up 1 run in 4 1/3 innings of relief in a do or die game, you probably feel pretty good. They had to pitch really well in lieu of Lugo in game 3, and they did. And after Reagans didn't go very far in game 2, and they did. That group was fantastic. The starters didn't give you any length, but honestly, I don't know. You gave up 1 run, 2 runs. Am I correct in that? Or was it 1-2-2 from your starters? Like, you were in the game in all of them.
And that's even with those guys not getting deep into games. That was another factor in this series. Like, the 2 things that happened all year to get the Royals here is that their stars produced like stars while they were in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Witt Jr. is going to finish as the runner-up for the MVP. It's one of the greatest seasons ever to not win an MVP. Salvador Perez had a typically salvi year in the cleanup spot, and Vinny Pasquantino had driven in 97 runs by the end of August before he got hurt.
Right.
The stars were always stars,
mm-hmm.
and the starting pitching got you deep into games. That happened all through the regular season. It stopped happening in a 4-game sample in October, where you never got a starting pitcher through 5 complete innings, and 2-3-4 did what 2-3-4 did.
But one of those strengths that became a last-minute weakness had a backup, because the bullpen was really good. They were really, really good. What was it? 1 run over games 2, 3, 4 between everyone, 1 run in each game. That's great work for how much they had to pitch. There was a backup for, a saving grace, a safety net for the starters not being their typical deep into games selves.
Yeah.
You didn't have that with the lineup. There was no saving grace 6, 7, 8 to support 2, 3, 4. It didn't exist. They never got going. And the fact that the fact that we went an entire month plus at the end of the year, really bordering on 2 full months, where if you did not get production every single game from 2, 3, 4, and then eventually when Vinny got hurt, just 2 and 3, and you were pretty much out of it, barring miraculous performances from one of your starting pitchers, that's not a good place to be. And
no.
I feel bad being overly negative about just this series because we knew this was a problem long term. I mean, we were saying in August or earlier that it was very clear the offseason goal in 2025 for the Royals, get major league hitters. Go get, you don't need,
you're short a bat and probably 2, and you're short and you're short 2 like distinct kinds of bats. You need an igniter at the top of the order, and you need a little thump to lengthen the lineup. You need some power. 5th or 6th, somebody who can drive the ball out of the ballpark, somebody who can extend an inning.
You just need, and I don't need all-stars, okay? But no. I need someone who's going to finish the year with an OPS somewhere between like 108 and 118. Like that's what I'm looking for, right?
You need,
a little above average.
Above average offensive players. And that's what the Royals, outside of their stars, didn't have quite enough of.
Yeah, safety net for the offense.
And look, over the course of 162 games, your stars can carry you. The evidence is with the Royals. The evidence is that they had about a league average offense despite having really 3 star bats and a 4th in Michael Massey, who was above average throughout the season, just missed a good chunk of it. But Massey had a good year and was good in the series until last night. But in a 4-game small sample, it's hard to survive when your best players don't produce. And for the Yankees, their best players started to produce in games 3 and 4. It wasn't a lot. Like, we're not talking about, oh, man, the Yankees just curb stomped the Royals. They dominated the Royals. No, man, the Yankees scored 3 runs last night. They didn't hit a lick with runners in scoring position all series. They just hit better than the Royals did. But, like, comparatively speaking, it's not like they were murderers row.
I see a good amount of Yankee stuff on Twitter because I've got 2 friends who are both Packers-Yankees fans, which to a certain segment of the population,
eliminate
you might
them
as well
from your life is what I would say.
Yeah, you're just satanic. But so I see a good amount of Yankee stuff on my Twitter timeline, and I saw multiple things pop up, specifically this morning or late last night, that was full of praise for Aaron Boone. This might be the best series he's ever managed. He pulled all the right levers. You can argue about a couple things in game 1, but that was just kind of a gong show in general for both teams. Generally speaking, though, he did a great job. And also these Yankees fans I was interacting with all told me, like, damn, the Royals pretty good, man. Like, they clearly have weaknesses, but what a year. And that's right. A team that should be in playoff contention annually.
You can walk away from this series as a Royals fan pretty proud, I think. And I think, like, in the clubhouse last night, it was not a demoralized clubhouse. It was a clubhouse that felt like, hey, we took our best shot. We were right there with those guys. It didn't work out. But this is our first time, and we plan to be back. That was the prevailing attitude, not the devastation that you would feel if you ran into a buzzsaw.
I also think you have to feel a little bit better, and this sounds a little weird coming out, but feel a little bit better knowing, yeah, this was the way the season was going to end. Like, the fact that the offense just was not consistent enough with runners in scoring position, 4 for 18 over the last 3 games. You didn't have any pop after the 4 spot in the lineup. You knew that's how this season was going to end. I think that is less demoralizing than, wow, Cole Reagans gave up 7 runs in an inning and a third and got knocked out, and we never had a chance. Seth Lugo was awful in the... Like, that's not what happened. Like, we knew what this team's weakness was. We knew what its fatal flaw was. That's what it was. Okay, we celebrate the good. We know what the bad is. You work forward from there. I think there's almost a little comfort in that. The point I was going to make about Boone, though, and that all these Yankees fans are saying, what? You know, Yankees fans love to criticize Aaron Boone. And frankly,
they do.
It's deserved a lot of the time. If you're saying this other team's manager had to pull all the right strings and did all the right things and made the right calls in all these spots, and these were all close games, that tells me you were right there in it.
Yes.
Like, if there's always a debate in baseball, right? How much does the manager actually matter?
Right.
And for some teams, it probably doesn't. But in a series like this, if you're saying the manager had to pull all the right strings and push all the right buttons at the right time, that tells me the margins were super thin between these two teams. And I think that's not comforting, but that's at least a thin silver lining for this Royals team, because you're right. It's not like you got steamrolled. No. You were right there in it.
And for want of a wind blowing out to right field, maybe we're talking about Kyle Isbell's hero shot in the 7th, propelling the Royals to a comeback victory, and we're talking about a Game 5 coming up in the Bronx on Saturday. That's how thin, though, the margins were. The run differential in this series was 2 in 4 games, and they were the 2 that the Yankees scored last night. It's a frustrating way for the season to end. We'll do more post-mortem, look back, look ahead to 2025 on Monday's show. We'll have an opportunity to do that, obviously, because the Chiefs are on a bye. So we'll save a lot of the post-mortem, like where the Royals go from here type stuff. Today is a don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened kind of day, I think, for Royals fans. Keep in mind, if you are a Royals fan and you were born in 1985 or later, this is the first time you have ever seen your team lose before they get to the World Series.
That is pretty wild.
That's the optimist way to look at it. The glass half empty would point and say, well, yeah, there are 29 years there in between playoff appearances. And yes, that is correct. But still, unfamiliar feeling a little bit for a certain vintage of Royals fan. We will take a quick break. Vance in the YouTube live chat says, any praise of the Yankees makes me projectile vomit. And Vance, I want you to know that I 100% understand. So you're going to love the next segment where I dump all over Jazz Chisholm for being a moron. That's next on 580 Sports Talk. .30 on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting started on this Friday afternoon, the day after the end of the season for the Kansas City Royals, who fall to the New York Yankees 3-1 last night, Game 4 of the ALDS. Couple of thoughts from the YouTube live comments. Appreciate you watching on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Trevor says, currently working through the stages of grief, walking out of the K last night, got through denial pretty quick, flirting with acceptance right now, but not quite fully there. Totally understand. Grieving happens on each person's own timeline. So we will not rush you into acceptance. Trust us. We'll give you the weekend.
I will. Get over it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
This is all an added bonus. The Royals weren't supposed to be this good this year.
That's the attitude of listener Paul in the YouTube live chat. For the Yankees and their philosophy, anything short of winning a World Series is a failure. For Kansas City, they could have been swept in 2 games by Baltimore, and this still would have been a wildly successful season. I think there's a lot of gratitude, certainly, from Royals fans that they got this experience, that they got this team, and got a chance to see them play in the postseason. And now the hope is that it's not a one-off, that it starts to become more of a common occurrence instead of having to wait a decade or 3 every time.
I think MPM in the YouTube comments puts it well. I will not be over it until after first pitch next year. I get it. Man, I'm still not over football games that happened over a decade ago.
No.
Like, I get it. I totally understand.
Like I said, grief is on the individual's timeline, and sometimes it goes slower than for some than for others.
One other silver lining, and I'm sorry to keep doing this was nice. Oh, isn't this great? Everybody's a winner. I'm not trying to do the moral victory thing, but the other thing I think you can hang your head high with if you're the Royal, or hold your head high with if you're the Royals, is no, this lineup was not a World Series lineup. Obviously, there were too many holes, not nearly enough depth. I understand that. But
go ahead.
But in terms of, that's not because your owner is like Bob Nutting and he's trying to save a penny everywhere he goes. This team spent big this year. This was not because the Royals are cheap. Okay, this was not.
This isn't like the Orioles, where the Orioles look at the end of their season and say, we didn't do enough. We had a really good roster in place. Right. We didn't do enough to make it great.
The Royals spent on starting pitching, and it worked. It was a great plan. At the deadline, they knew our bullpen is butt. We need to improve on it. Who is our bidet to clean up this butt? And it was Lucas Erceg. Lucas, I'm sorry. That was unpleasant, but yeah, sorry. I was too deep at that point. So you made the move there. You moved pieces to go get that guy. You locked down Bobby Witt Jr. for a decade. You spent that money up front because you might say, well, duh, of course they did. Look around Major League Baseball, guys. Not every team is willing to make the right, obvious move. You spent there. You made... At the last minute, at the end of the year, at the waiver deadline, even though you weren't going to get anyone who was game-changing, Gurriel was a nice addition. Pham had moments. Like, you tried. You threw what little money you had left to try to improve the team. So
literally
Royals,
money with Gurriel.
What was that?
Literally money with Gurriel.
Right. Like, you did what you could in your circumstances. Yes. And I hope if you're a Royals fan, you can at least... We've seen a lot of gripes with the structure of the finances of baseball today, and we'll probably get to that a little more next week too. But you did what you could with what you have, and not every team does that, and I'm glad they did it.
Yes.
Because this was such an enjoyable year. What a surprise! Good players and trying to be good makes things more enjoyable, makes people want to tune in, makes people want to go out to the ballpark every day.
And get you the postseason.
Yes!
Yes, this
is great.
It was well earned. They pulled out every stop they could possibly pull out to make the team as good as they possibly could, to make the 26-man roster that they fielded on a given day the best they could possibly make it. And if that continues to be the prevailing philosophy for this team, I don't think you have to worry about how big the number in the in the salary scale is, because realistically, it's never going to look like what the Yankees spend, what the Dodgers spend. Like, realistically, that's not going to happen. But if you have a smart front office who is committed to putting the best 26-man roster on the field that it possibly can from March through October, you're going to be in good hands. You're going to have seasons like this a lot more often than not. Anyhow, let me get to last night, because we got to move on. We got Matt Derrick coming up in just a little bit. Got to get to what we saw last night. The bench is empty last night in the 6th inning. It was a 3-6 double play was the play, right? Michael Massey grounds into double play after Maikel Garcia's leadoff single. It's a ground ball right to first base. The candy 3-6 double play. It's a good feed, maybe a little offline to the shortstop, Anthony Volpe. He's trying to get the tag down on Maikel Garcia. If you watch the play, Maikel Garcia is trying to slide around Anthony Volpe. And Anthony Volpe is a little bit off balance, trying to reach from a squatted position across his body to make the tag, and he gets a little piece of Garcia with his forearm. No malice aforethought by either guy. It was plain and obvious. I could see it from all the way out in the right field corner behind the foul line. No malice aforethought either guy. Volpe gets up, gives Garcia a pat on the back. Everything would have been fine if not for the man who was determined to be this series' antagonist, Jazz Chisholm. Now, Jazz had a bad angle on the play from third base. He didn't have the same angle that I had, didn't have the same angle that Turner had. So what he saw was Garcia going into second hard, which he did. But maybe he was blocked out. Maybe he thought that Garcia went hard into Volpe, like into him. And that was what he said after the game. I thought he was trying to hurt my guy. He said Garcia had been talking trash on Instagram and Twitter and whatever, and that he thought he was a sore loser and was trying to go in and injure his guy. But if Jazz Chisholm knew the first thing about baseball, he would have known it wasn't a takeout slide into second base because it's a tag play. It's not a force play at second base. There's no reason for Garcia to go in on a hard slide. And Chisholm's out there acting like it was Hal McRae into Willie Randolph in the 77 ALCS. Get a clue. Rub those two brain cells together, Jazz, and get a semblance of a clue about the game of baseball. It's a good thing you don't play shortstop anymore, pal, because I can't imagine what would have happened if Garcia had slid into you like that. There's barely anything in it. He soiled his drawers, and he emptied the benches.
I heard on a podcast today this was described as a dugout clearing conversation.
Yes.
Which I thought was very funny.
There are a lot of those. And look, seeing a hard slide into second base and the benches clear in a playoff game between the Royals and the Yankees definitely falls under the category of restoring the feeling. But Jazz Chisholm showed his entire ass this entire series. And look, you might not like it, but he does get to talk his talk because his team won the series. He didn't do jack or squat in games 3 or 4, got booed and did nothing else, but he gets to talk his talk. He was right after game 2. His team did win the series. The Royals only won that one game, so he gets to talk a little bit. But he showed his entire ass last night, not having a clue about how the game works. You shouldn't have to have a good angle on that slide to know what Garcia is trying to do. He's trying to get around the tag. It doesn't benefit him to slide directly into the guy trying to tag him. Get a brain. Do you know anything about the game, Jazz? Just infuriating. And you know what? He's a long-term villain now in Kansas City, and I look forward to him getting the same reaction that he got in games 3 and 4 of this series every time he comes to Kauffman Stadium the rest of his career, and he's going to deserve it. Matt Derrick next on 580 Sports Talk. Let's go to Kansas City on this bye week Friday and chat with our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He joins us every week at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. You can read Matt's work at ChiefsDigest.com. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Derrick. And Matt, before we get into the grueling bye week, let's revisit a little bit Monday night when the Chiefs defeated the New Orleans Saints 26-13. I felt like that was easily the best performance, certainly the most dominant performance of the season for the Chiefs. What was your biggest takeaway from that game?
Yeah, I'm with you, Dan. I think it was obviously another very strong performance from the defense. Continue to shut down opposing running backs. I think that's a well-established storyline at this point. But I thought the more promising, progress was at least on the offensive side. I thought it was an all-around solid performance. And, for Mahomes, I thought that the strides that he made in the second half, the previous week, you saw it happen again. I mean, I think that's 6 good quarters now that the offense has been able to put together. I thought he threw the ball with more authority. It was a little bit more of that gunslinger Mahomes than we had been seeing. So I thought there was a lot to like on both sides of the football.
The defense in particular, we talk about stopping the run way less in modern football is something that's like hugely important because, of course, it's a passing game. It's a passing league now. But the Chiefs have run into some really good running backs who are performing at a high level this season in games that don't involve the Chiefs, and they're absolutely shutting them down. What do you think is the biggest reason the Chiefs have been so good against the run this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just has to do with their personnel and the skill set that they have. You think about how well Chris Jones, Tershawn Wharton, Mike Pennell have been playing up the middle. And, when you're able to disrupt the middle of the offensive line the way that the Chiefs defense has been able to, that's the first step in really being able to take away the run. And then when you think about the other elements, Chiefs linebackers, especially Nick Bolton, he had a very good game against the Saints. He's a very good run defender. I get some of the knocks against him sometimes in pass coverage, but very good run defender, and that's a big part of it. But I think also, Leo Chenal, Drew Tranquil, good defenders there. The Chiefs have good defenders, support defenders as far as their cornerbacks go. Trent McDuffie, one of the better, I think, run defenders and tacklers in the league. So, and the Chiefs, let's face it, don't give up a lot of runs that require the secondary, but even at the next level, Justin Reed's a really good run defender. So up the middle, the Chiefs are really strong in that regard. And so I don't get the sense that the Chiefs defense is really doing anything special. It's not like they're putting 8 guys in the box or anything like that. They're just, I think, a good run defense based on their personnel, kind of regardless of whether they're looking for the run or not.
Kareem Hunt and Juju Smith-Schuster each went over 100 yards. Hunt on the ground, Smith-Schuster through the air. And I checked and double-checked and triple-checked the calendar on the wall at my house to make sure that we had not time warped back to 2017. But no, in fact, it was a game in 2024. Those guys pulled that off. Why do you think they were able to have such success? And do you think that's something the Chiefs can maybe not count on 100-yard games every week, but can they get some real production out of those guys moving forward?
Man, you've got me really interested. I'm gonna have to look that up and see when was the last time and how many times have those guys had 100 yards on the same day. Maybe it's not that many times, and it certainly, if it has been, it was a long, long time ago. Hey, with Kareem, I'm intrigued. I really am. Based on what we've seen on 2 games, I'm not saying I'm all in. I'm still got a lot of show me state in me. Sorry about that. But I need a little bit more proof. But I really like what we've seen so far. Obviously, Kareem is just such a patient runner, great vision, still has the contact balance. I'm not convinced he's as fast as he used to be, but when it comes to being an effective runner, don't have to have speed all the time. Even though I think it'd be nice if the Chiefs had a guy that could hit a home run for 70 yards every once in a while. If Kareem can have some games where he's going to average 5+, that's a good one. That wasn't the kind of game he had against the Saints. It was more of a grinded out game, especially in the second half. But there's still some juice in that body of Kareem's. And Juju, at this point in his career, it's more about smarts and savvy. He's also not as fast as he used to be, and he'll tell you that the knees are probably a problem, but just such a smart player. And that's something that obviously the Chiefs need, is just somebody that understands defenses, understands the NFL, understands how to get open. It's not necessarily always about just beating your guy. It's about, especially in, today when you're seeing so many zones, it's just being about a smart headsy receiver that can find the soft spots, and that's Juju. So for receivers, I think it's a harder challenge. I was asked the other day, what I thought that Juju could be going forward, and hey, 60 yards a game would make you 1,000-yard receiver. I don't know that he's there. I think he could still have 100-yard games. I think there's probably going to be some games though when maybe he gets shut down or has 20. But I mean, if you were able to get 40 or 50 yards a game out of Juju on average going forward, I think you'd take that right now.
Matt Derrick is our guest. He joins us every Friday afternoon at this time for our Chiefs Insider on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Matt covers the Kansas City Chiefs for ChiefsDigest.com. You can also follow him on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Matt, now that we know that Rashee Rice is, for all intents and purposes, done for the season, you're not going to have Hollywood Brown at least for the regular season, if not longer. We're back to having a very thin wide receiver room for the Chiefs, even if Juju is maybe a little bit better than some of us expected him to be. I know we've talked about trades already a bunch over the last couple of weeks, but do you think that a trade for a receiver is still in the cards here? And I'm not saying Devontae Adams, because let's be realistic, that's not going to happen. But for a player like what they've done before, when they've gone after a Kadarius Toney or someone else who's kind of a fizzled out former draft darling. I think of Jalen Hyatt, another Giant actually, who this season has 0 catches in 5 games. Once upon a time had first-round hype, ended up being a third-round pick 2 years ago. Does a kind of reclamation project make sense for a trade, given that's what the Chiefs have done 2 years in a row?
Yeah, it's the reclamation project that would worry me a little bit, because if you're the Chiefs, you got 2 models to look at kind of the last year, last couple of years. 2 years ago, it was the Kadarius Toney trade, and that's the reclamation. I mean, that's the former first-round pick that kind of won out his welcome. Had a good first year, but needed to be rebuilt. And hey, that didn't exactly work out. But you know what? At the same time, Kadarius Toney made some plays that helped them win a Super Bowl. So I don't think you got a problem with that. But that's Kadarius Toney year one. That's probably what you're expecting from especially a young receiver with no experience in an Andy Reid offense or not much on a West Coast. Hyatt might be an exception there in the sense that at least he's been playing for Dable and Mike Kafka. So maybe that would help a little bit in the transition. I'm convinced, but last year, remember that the trade was to bring McCole Hardman in, and that was a guy that had experience with your offense. So, and then again, once again, a guy that helped you win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, the ceiling is much lower if it's a reclamation project without any connection to your offense, your team, your scheme. That's going to make it more difficult. Even if it's an experienced receiver. I mean, Juju's coming in, but Juju had experience with this team and this offense. If you want and need a receiver that your sole purpose is production in 2024, then I think you're looking at a very narrow field of potential receivers. It's someone who's played for the Chiefs or played for, like I said, a Kafka, played for Matt Nagy in Chicago, or played for Doug Peterson. There's a few other coordinators and maybe offenses around the league that you said, okay, that'd be a good transition to come to Kansas City. But not just any receiver is going to be plug and play in this offense. And if it's a young receiver with years of team control, like a Kadarius Toney, maybe you're in the market for that. But even then, I mean, Toney, the Chiefs were like, hey, they're trading for the extra years on the contract and team control. They weren't trading for immediate production. So there's a give and take there. I think the Chiefs, that they're going to be in the market, they're going to be in the market for somebody who helps them now, which I think does narrow it to, just a handful of teams, handful of offenses, handful of players, even for some former Chiefs. We'll see. But I can't imagine that, it would be someone that doesn't have some tie to Kansas City's offense, or at least some similar experience, because otherwise you're just talking without somebody who I just don't think is going to be able to give you much of an impact.
We're joined by Matt Derrick of the Chiefs Digest here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. And Matt, moving to the defense, the one thing the Chiefs defense, their big bugaboo the first few weeks was giving up opening drive points. And not only do they not give up opening drive points, Brian Cook came up with a huge pick on that. How big was it for their confidence as a defense, knowing that that's kind of the one thing they hadn't done yet?
Yeah, I think that was a big part of, I think, shutting down the Saints. That was a big momentum swing. I think it was good for the defense, and it helped. I think that too that the Chiefs were familiar with Derek Carr. I mean, they kind of knew what to expect. They kind of have a plan for dealing with Derek Carr, and their experience is if you're able to get a lot of pressure on him and make him uncomfortable, you can force him to make mistakes, and that helps out. That familiarity. So, maybe there's going to be some other situations going forward, when the Chiefs do get in some situations and are facing some teams with which they're more familiar. I mean, the 2 games in a row, the Chargers was, a team that at least they were somewhat familiar with, but has a lot of changes on that side because of the coaching staff changes. So maybe that's a little bit more of a challenge, but it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. I mean, obviously the defense is playing really well, but I think that, the fact that they'd had some troubles kind of getting established on that opening drive, if they can figure things out from the very beginning, I think you saw what this defense is capable of, and that's really keeping another team offense completely in check. And when they did that, they had an easy win. I mean, that's going to be key if this team wants to get some more easy wins going forward.
Matt Derrick covers the Kansas City Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com. And he is our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk. Joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Friday at this time. Matt, we always appreciate your time. Enjoy the bye week, and we will talk to you next Friday.
I appreciate it, Dan. Take care, everybody.
That is Matt Derrick. We'll take a break, come back, do Change My Mind to wrap up this 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Real quick round of Change My Mind here to wrap up the 3 o'clock hour. Change my mind. The Yankees are going to the World Series.
No, I said it yesterday on the show. The Tigers are the team of destiny.
You said that, and then they went and got beat.
That's fine. Sometimes it takes a while to, achieve your destiny, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say no unless Aaron Judge wakes up.
It looks like that's happening. He was pretty good last night, had the leadoff double that produced the Yankees' third run off of Lucas Erceg. Garrett Cole threw really well last night. If they get the good Garrett Cole, and most importantly, if they get the bullpen they got in the Kansas City series, I don't think that the Guardians of the Tigers are going to be able to score enough against them.
Luke Weaver.
Yeah, that one.
Gas.
Yeah, that's a real kick in the gonads for Royals fans, right?
Well, not even just Royals fans. I'm pretty sure Luke Weaver's been with a bunch of teams
and sucked for all of them. Yes.
Yeah, just now figured out.
Now he's getting 5-out saves in the playoffs. Yeah, isn't that always the way? Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we got our Prairie Band Sportsbook 580 Sports Talk Picks Contest. Crown a weekly What Is Wrong With You champion, and we'll preview K-State CU. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 2 on this Friday edition. Thanks for being with us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream, which can be found on our Facebook page, WIBW News, and our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks to those who check us out on YouTube today and every day and hang out with us in the live chat, hang out with their fellow listeners. It's always neat to see that. And thanks to all who subscribe. Thanks to everybody who has checked out our live videos, including my instant reactions from Kauffman Stadium the last 2 nights after the Royals playoff games. They're not going to let me back in the building. It was clearly my fault that the Royals lost both of their home playoff games in this postseason. They are going to excommunicate me from the press rolls.
How did they do the game that you went to back in April or May? They win that one?
The one I went to with my wife. I think they lost. I don't remember. I have to look.
That means Dan's bad juju can't go to any more Royals
No
games.
more games.
So I have an app on my phone. I have the Memento app on my phone, which is a great app.
The best.
Yeah, Memento is what it's called. And what you can do is it's essentially like you make your own ticket stub for every game you've basically ever been to in your life, if you can find it, it's on here. So I have logged all of the games that I've ever been to. I've been to 30 Royals games in my life. 30 Kansas City Royals games, and they are 15-15. So I report, you decide. The Royals actually won that game I was at. It was against the A's. Of course they won. Yeah, it was against the A's.
Well, yeah.
It was bobblehead night. Yeah. So they did. They won. So they were 1-2 when I went to the ballpark today. Or this year, but unfortunately I couldn't bring him back a playoff win, and the season has come to a close. Like I mentioned, we'll do more post-mortem stuff. We'll give it a weekend to sink in, and we'll do some post-mortem stuff on Monday's show, a broader look back at the year that was and what needs to happen for the Royals moving forward. Do they have another $110 million spending spree in them? Are they going to need to spend that much money in free agency to remain competitive? And what are the long-term prospects of this core group? I think they're positioned and eager to be competitive every year. Bobby Witt Jr. is on the team and in his prime, which should be the bare minimum when you have that guy. That's the thing about this. The Royals were able to do what they did, going from 106 losses to 86 wins in the playoffs, because they already had the two most important elements you need to be a successful baseball team. You had a no-joke superstar at a premium position, no less, an MVP type of player, and you had an ace, a bona fide, takes the ball every 5 days, butt kicker ace. And both of those guys, Bobby Witt Jr. and Cole Reagans, are young. And so the foundation, you start with those two. There are like 20 other baseball teams that would love to start with that position player and that pitcher and try and build a playoff roster. So that's the good news. That's the bright side, looking at the short and long-term future of the Kansas City Royals. And we'll do a little bit more of that on Monday's show. Still to come on today's show, we'll preview K-State's trip to Boulder to take on Colorado. We'll also have our K-State player profile coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Earlier this week, I had a chat with Lakin's own Hadley Panzer, senior offensive guard, starts at left guard for the Wildcats. Had a chance to talk with Hadley earlier this week. He's our K-State player profile. Tonight, here on 580 WIBW, we go from 3 to 6 here on 580 Sports Talk, and then we will hand it off to high school football coverage, 580 Preps Coaches Club, from 6 until about 6:35, and then we'll have our Lewis Toyota 580 Preps Game of the Week tonight. And folks, I hope you like points, because I think there are going to be a lot of points tonight at Lester Weatherfield in Tecumseh as Shawnee Heights hosts Seaman. It's a great rivalry. It's a league game. It's two of the best quarterbacks in Class 5A and maybe in the state of Kansas, to be honest with you, with Shawnee Heights Jr. Aiden Scott and Seaman Senior Max Huston. I think those two are going to put on a show. Bring your TI-83s or whatever calculator is in vogue now, because you're going to need them to tally up the yards and tally up the points tonight at Lester Weatherfield. Going to be a fun one. Myself, Greg Akagi, Spencer Dupuis on the call from Tecumseh tonight. A lot of points.
It's fun football.
It is. It's going to be a fun
Shawnee
one.
Heights, heartbreaking to lose last week because they put up 57 points.
Yeah, it's hard to lose when you
Not going to happen very often.
score 57.
The Pistol told us yesterday during the local sports spotlight, his feeling is if Shawnee Heights puts up 57 again, that will include a win.
Yeah, that's probably
I think
true.
that is fair.
That is probably true. Both teams, like you told me, if you told me going to the game tonight, either team scores in the 50s, it wouldn't be a surprise. It really wouldn't. Seaman scored 40 in 3 straight games. They haven't done that since 2009. That's your nugget of the night.
Wow.
Nugget of the night there. You said TI calculators. That got me curious because I haven't had a TI calculator since 2017.
I haven't had one since 2004.
They're up to TI 89 titanium.
Oh, dang.
Titanium.
Wow. They're living in 3024.
Also, the base is TI 73 Explorer.
How about that? Now you know. Hey, we got a keyword for the Euro trip that we're giving away on 580WIBW.com. 10-day trip through Europe that we are giving away. You have to enter the new keyword every hour. 580WIBW.com. This hour's keyword is jet. No. I'm looking right at the paper, guys. Jet, jet.
I need to change my what is wrong with you story.
You can jet off to Europe.
Nice.
Listen.
But not get. You can't get off to Europe.
No.
Like,
Jet is Jet. I gotta tell you about the time I got eliminated from the spelling bee on pilot.
I have heard this story.
I made it through the written. I won my school spelling bee, and then I made it through the written portion at districts and got to the stage version. They give you a layup word to start, so you don't get nervous. And my layup word was pilot, and in my head I'm thinking, "There's an O. Don't forget the O." I didn't forget the O. I just forgot to put it after the I and the L, and that was the end of my spelling bee career. Anyhow. So I say that to say I've done worse things than trying to spell jet with a G on the radio before.
That was pretty funny, though.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's like the time Jake LeBon forgot how old he was in the middle of a conversation about concussions.
Or the time that he... Yeah, that was pretty incredible.
That's
the time
incredible.
he gave 578 as a time. Remember that?
Yes, I'll never forget it. He said that the post time for the Kentucky Derby was 578.
And then said, I was talking in military
Yeah,
time.
I was doing Army time with you
It's like,
guys.
that's not how that works either.
No, it is certainly not. Let's get into the Prairie Band Sportsbook 580 Sports Talk Picks Contest. We do it every week at this time. It is brought to you by our friends at Prairie Band Sportsbook inside Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta. Prairie Band Sportsbook. Bet your way. Visit prairieband.com/sportsbook for more details. Last week, Spencer had his best week of the competition so far. A resounding 4-1 that moved Spencer from last place all the way to last place, but closer.
Hey, we're all now like very close.
Yes.
It was pretty spread out last week.
The pack has tightened dramatically. There's only like a game and a half separating the three of us now. Spencer is 13-15 on the season. Brendan, 3 straight losing weeks, 1-3-1 last week. He is now 13-14-1. And after a winning week last week at 3-2, yours truly, 14-13-1. I'm the only one of these bums making you a profit. Not that it's a sizable one, but it's a profit all the same at 14-13-1. Since I am in first place, I'm going first with my picks this week. All of these lines courtesy Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta. Remember, we do 2 college games against the spread, 2 NFL games against the spread, and a wild card pick that is, once again, an over-under for all of us. My college games this week, the 2 biggest games on the schedule, I've got picks for. Texas and Oklahoma, the Red River football game.
Shootout.
Screw it. I'm calling it the Red River Shootout. Texas is favored by 14 points. I'm laying the points. I don't think Oklahoma can score. Bottom line, I just don't think Oklahoma can score. I think Texas can really score, and I think they're going to win by more than 2 touchdowns.
Is what's his face still starting at quarterback? Not Arnold, the other one, whatever his name is.
Michael Hawkins?
Michael Hawkins. Yeah, who's starting at quarterback? It probably doesn't matter, but who's starting at quarterback?
That's a great question. I don't think it matters.
If it's Michael Hawkins, I like OU to make the spread close. If it's Jackson Arnold, I like him to hit the portal by Monday. He's not good. He is not Oklahoma good.
No, I think Hawkins is better, honestly. Like long term, I think that's going to be the guy.
Do you know who the third stringer is for Oklahoma? I want to see him get in this game. He knows Hookem very well.
Is it, what's his name? Paul Thompson? No.
Close.
That
Casey Thompson.
Casey Thompson. Yeah. Paul Thompson was his dad, I think.
Yeah, Casey Thompson.
Is it really?
Yeah. Well, no, he's finally on the right.
I was joking. What?
No, Casey Thompson. Yeah, he's like a 14th year redshirt. Yeah, because wasn't the whole thing when he was at Texas that his whole family is OU fans?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he went to Texas, and it was, oh, wow, every single time the Texas is on TV, let's show this family photo of all of his family wearing crimson him in burnt orange. And now he finally made his way to Oklahoma as his 18th school.
That's so funny. Oh, my God.
That is.
When did he start his college career? Casey Thompson started he's 26. Spencer, what year were you born?
1997.
Okay, so you're older than Casey Thompson. You also graduated college multiple years ago. Yeah.
4.
Texas, Nebraska, Florida Atlantic, Oklahoma.
What a career.
Tells you all you need to know about Brent Venables.
What a career. Casey Thompson, buddy.
He has played in one bowl game. All those programs, Texas, Nebraska, Florida Atlantic, Oklahoma, he has played in one bowl game.
Has he played in it or been to it?
As far as I know, that's all he's been in.
Casey Thompson just prolonging the amount of time before he has to take 15 minutes to help you save 15% or more on your car insurance.
Hey, listen, I know Enterprise is a great program for former college athletes. Nothing wrong with that.
So I'm laying 14 with the Longhorns. I'm also taking Oregon +3 at home against Ohio State in the big primetime game on Saturday night. My reasoning for this is it's a home game in primetime at Autzen Stadium, and I'm catching points. I think Ohio State is really good. I don't think they've been tested like this. I know that Oregon has kind of wobbled early this year, but this is the one they've got all the eggs in the basket for. I think they cover the 3, and I wouldn't be surprised they went outright. So those are my college picks this week in the marquee games. Texas laying 14, Oregon +3. Over in the NFL, I'll lay 6.5 with Houston against New England. Drake May's first career start. Houston almost killed Caleb Williams. What are they going to do to Drake May?
I would like to share a take really quickly because I don't believe we're going to get to this game in our NFL preview in the 5 o'clock hour. There's been a lot of, oh no, baby Drake May, I'm so scared for you. Oh, this is terrible. You're going to ruin him.
He's a small bean.
He's a small little baby. Guy, and I've heard this on a few different podcasts this week, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. If you think that a bad game against a great pass rush will ruin Drake May, he already sucks. Seriously, like if that's enough, if getting hit 15 times by Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson is enough to ruin Drake May, he's already ruined, and you never should have drafted him 3rd overall. Now, I don't believe that. I think he's going to be really good in the NFL. Maybe not this year, but I think he'll eventually be good. He's a football player, guys. This is the NFL. Every game is hard.
Yeah, I think he's going to take a beating.
That being said, I agree with that pick.
No Ramondre Stevenson either for New England. So I just don't know how they're going to do any kind of scoring. I'll lay 6.5 with Houston on the road. Taking the Giants +3.5 against Cincinnati. I know we get off our Daniel Jones jokes, and nobody thinks he's actually good. And they're not going to have Malik Neighbors, which really limits their passing game. But, like, what if, aside from Daniel Jones, what if the Giants are, like, not bad? Because they kind of feel like they're not bad. The defense feels legit.
Yeah.
They've pieced a running game together. They took it to Seattle in Seattle last week. I think they can cover 3.5 against Cincinnati. Prime time at home. I'll take the prime time. I'll take the primetime home team if I'm getting a field goal plus a hook. So I'll take the Giants +3.5. My wild card pick this week, Jacksonville, Chicago. I'm on the Lunder. 45.5 is the total. 45.5 is the total for the London game. I will take the under in that one.
Oh, we love the Lunder. For my picks this week, college football, I'm going with the 2 MAC games that we picked with Paul Meyerberg yesterday. He was adamant when I gave him Western Michigan versus Akron as the dumpster juice pick of the week.
That was great.
He was adamant that we pick Ball State versus Kent State, which he said was going to be one of the worst games of the entire season. So we are going to pick that one. We're actually going to pick both those games that we picked yesterday. And I'm going to go with Paul's picks. Ball State, 5-point favorite on the road at Kent State. That's fine. I'll take it. I'll trust Paul Meyerberg. Also, Western Michigan at home. They're not good, but they're taking on Akron, which might be the worst team in the entire country. 9.5-point favorite. We are going with Western Michigan. Spencer Dupuis, I'm going to need momentarily here a little audio on my computer for these picks. If you could bring me audio, please. All right, we're going swimming in it, folks. Into the dumpster juice. Dumpster juice picks of the week.
How emblematic of this show. We've picked we've talked about the two biggest college football games of the week and also two MAC games that are going to be on ESPN minus.
That you will hate. You will not enjoy either of those games, I promise you. From the NFL, Dan, I'm also on Giants plus 3.5 against Cincinnati. And the biggest reason why, no Malik Neighbors. That is very bad. I don't know who Daniel Jones is going to throw to. It might not matter. Cincinnati has the worst defense in the NFL. Since going to Tyrone Tracy as their starting running back, the Giants' running game has really come alive. Give me the Giants. I think they have a chance to win outright at home. I hate saying that about Cincinnati. I bet Joe Burrow has another good game. He leads the NFL in EPA per play. He is playing awesome football, and it doesn't matter because their defense is trash. I am also going to London for my other spread pick. I've got the Bears as a 1.5-point favorite over Jacksonville. Probably is going to feel like a home game for Jacksonville, even though the Bears are the de facto home team for this London game. I just don't trust Jacksonville farther than I can throw them. I know they won last week. Indianapolis's defense is horrible. Also, Indy hasn't won in Jacksonville since like before Spencer was born. Like they can't do it. They are incapable of winning in North Florida. I just don't trust Jacksonville. The Bears have a really good defense, and I think that's going to be a difference maker. Also, I think Caleb Williams is going to have a big game because Jacksonville's defense is dirty brown water trash. Finally, my wild card pick for the week. I am going with Spencer's Commanders versus the Ravens. I'm going with the most fun over of the season so far, over 51.5 Commanders-Ravens. That's a lot of points in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
The Commanders can't really stop anyone, and quiet as it's kept, neither can Baltimore, at least not through the air. So I think there's going to be a lot of points in that game.
I could see it.
I was tempted to just pick the Commanders. I couldn't pull the trigger because Lamar is going crazy right now.
Yeah.
And Washington's defense is not very good.
They're
So
improving week by week, though.
That's true. They have not played a quarterback as good as Lamar Jackson, though. Well, they did play Burrow. And granted, gave up a lot of points.
Right. What's the implied final there would be what, like 30-22, 29-22? With
something like that.
With Baltimore favored by 7. Yeah, I could see both teams breaking into the mid-20s.
Yeah, I think that'll happen. So give me the high-scoring game there on the Beltway.
Spencer, what you got?
I am going with some home cooking for myself here. I've got Marshall laying 2 at Georgia Southern. Marshall's getting into a bit of a rhythm offensively, finally, after my most hated quarterback, Stone Earl, was like benched last week without being benched. The head coach, Charles Huff, said, I wanted to just throw a curveball. So they put in Braylon Braxton, Tulsa transfer, and he lit it up, won Conference Player of the Week. And if you win Conference Player of the Week as a quarterback, they can't bench you, can they? Like, they can't put you back on the bench.
Wouldn't think so.
Wouldn't think so. So I think the offense is going to do well there, and I think they're going to win in that one. They're favored by 2. And then I got LSU favored by 6.5 at Arkansas. I think LSU is a better team than Arkansas this year, so I think that's going to happen. Pitt, we'll go to the NFL. Pittsburgh over Vegas, favored by 3. That's easy. Vegas, I mean, they're probably going to be without Devontae Adams. They're going with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. Justin Fields isn't a great quarterback, but the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is great. And their kicking game is great. So if coming down to a field goal projected game. So I'm going to go with the Steelers there. The other NFL game, the Eagles laying 9 points to the Browns. The Browns offense is dookie, just like their quarterbacks, the dirty man. Nasty man, dirty man, same thing. Still applies. So yeah, I've got Philly winning in that one. And my wild card is also my lock of the week. Buffalo and the Buffalo Bills playing the Jets. Let me pull up exactly what I sent you here because I really liked what I said in it. No, this is great riveting
basically
radio.
Said both quarterbacks are banged up.
Yeah,
both quarterbacks.
The Jets have had
up.
a week to forget, and then they've taken away play calling duties from Hackett. Not to mention Rodgers banged up. Rodgers may not be too happy with his buddy Hackett not calling the plays. As for the Bills, Josh Allen was concussed or not concussed last weekend, but according to the injury report, he's also dealing with a left hand and ankle injuries. So I'm going with the under because both quarterbacks are iffy. Under 41.
I like that under.
Yeah.
What's your lock of the week? The Ball State game?
Yeah, I'll go with the Ball State game. Paul Meyerberg was so adamant that we picked that game that he cut me off mid-question, which is fine. He can always cut me off. But he was so adamant about it, I had to roll with that for my lock.
My lock of the week is Oregon +3 at home. I just think Autzen Stadium, that's not an atmosphere Ohio State's familiar with. We've seen teams with these new conference assignments going into different environments, especially at night, and just not being themselves, being thrown off a little bit. I think Oregon will be able to take advantage of that, and I think they'll beat the Buckeyes.
Kobe Savage intercepts Will Howard. Mean tweets emanate from Manhattan, Kansas, regardless.
Yeah.
Lots of noticing tweets from K-State Twitter.
Yes.
Lots of those. Anyhow, those are our Prairie Band Sportsbook 580 Sports Talk picks of the week. If you want to follow along with the contest, you can check out our records. They are in the story. It is online, 580wibw.com. We'll break down K-State and Colorado in just a little bit. But first, we'll come back with our final round of What Is Wrong With You for the week and crown our weekly champion next on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk, crowning a weekly champion. Our Monday winner, have you seen my wieners, has persisted. You guys tried the last couple of days, but could not take down the story about a stabbing over allegedly stolen Vienna sausages at a coastal Georgia nursing home.
We had a pretty good winner yesterday, but I voted against it for the weekly battle because the woman who is the subject of the story dropped a hard R
Oh,
And,
dear.
I didn't
yeah.
really want to keep talking about her.
Yeah, that's a no.
No.
That'd be a no for me too. All right, 2 new stories today. We're gonna go with yours first, Brendan.
All right, for my story today, usually if you forget something that's like important to you, you try to go find it right away. Like, oh shoot, I got to go back and get that.
I left my phone at my house this morning when I left for work.
Very, very important. Well, someone in Knoxville, Tennessee accidentally left their trailer full of dynamite and has not claimed it. Authorities in Eastern Tennessee continued Friday investigating a container suspected of holding large amounts of dynamite, warning residents that evacuations will likely remain in place throughout the night. Quote, until we know more, we implore people to stay out of this area, according to spokesman Scott Erland of the Knoxville Police Department. We are still dealing with a volatile situation, I'll say. Residents within 3,000 feet of CMC Recycling, which provides metal recycling services for residents and industrial clients, have been encouraged to evacuate since Thursday after an employee discovered a 5-by-5-foot steel box with suspected dynamite. Erland said the employee was using a torch to open the box that caused the contents to start smoking. That led the employee to call authorities. He is very lucky he didn't explode.
Yes.
Until we believe otherwise, we're going to treat it like it's going to explode, the spokesman said. Yeah, I'll say. There's no evidence that foul play was involved. Here is my retort to that, though. Why would you just forget dynamite unless you had other plans with it? Ones that were, malicious.
Yeah, like you got a trailer full of dynamite. You're probably trying to deliver it, I would imagine.
The ATF was called, and they said, you should probably evacuate. And thus, that's why folks have evacuated.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, left your dynamite hanging out.
Yeah, I would always keep track of my dynamite if it were me. That would just be general piece of advice. All right, for my story today, you guys like sequels?
Generally not.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're good.
Sometimes.
Most times not.
I mean, some, I guess.
Most times the sequel's not as good as the original, right?
Empire Strikes Back. That's a great sequel.
We have a sequel to a weekly champion from earlier this year. Remember the bag of drugs? Woman who had a bag of drugs, and on the bag it said bag of drugs. And it was indeed a bag of drugs.
Did that end up winning a month?
I don't think it won the month, but it did advance to the end of the month.
It
was a weekly champion. Folks, we have a sequel in the state of Oregon. Bag of Drugs 2, definitely not a bag full of drugs. Definitely not a bag full of drugs is what the bag said on it. You'll never guess what was in it.
Drugs.
When officers pulled over Mia Rochelle Bagenstos, 37, and Reginald Lamont Reynolds, 35, in southeast Portland, they were driving a stolen car first. They searched the car and discovered cash, a loaded revolver, scales, and a bag that had definitely not a bag full of drugs printed on it. There were a lot of drugs in that bag of drugs. If you are watching right now on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, or if you're watching on Facebook, WIBW News, I'm going to put the picture up. So the bag, as you can see, in a whimsical font, I think you would call that a whimsical font, says, definitely not a bag full of drugs. There are even little starbursts.
Yeah.
And you can then see all the drugs that were in. Definitely not a bag full of drugs. How many drugs, you might ask? Fentanyl and meth, over 10 grams.
Shoo.
Reynolds faces charges of delivery of meth, unlawful possession of meth, unauthorized use of a vehicle, possession of a stolen vehicle. Bagenstos was booked on the same charges, but prosecutors indicated they would not bring charges against her.
Is there any lawful possession of meth?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Yeah, it seems redundant.
I've never,
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely not a bag full of drugs. Was, in fact, full of drugs.
Well, now, here I think is an important point. You can argue semantics here. The bag itself was not entirely full of drugs. There was other stuff in the bag, was there not?
Well, no, they said that the bag was, in fact, just contained the drugs.
Oh, okay.
Just full of the drugs.
Now, see, if she had been able to wedge the gun also in the bag, technically would be correct. It would not be full of drugs. There would have been other things in there tainting the supply.
We don't know if indeed that amount of drugs, they said it was over 10 grams, We do not know. It's hard to tell to scale there, looking at the picture, if that was indeed enough to fill the bag.
Yeah, I have no idea if that fills a bag. I'm not really up on my sizes of amounts of drugs.
I don't know if the cash was in there or not. The scales certainly didn't look like they would fit. Yeah, man. Like, you think you're being clever, and then you get pulled over.
They'll never suspect a thing.
Yes.
Not at all.
And then you get pulled over driving a stolen vehicle, and they find your drugs in the bag that says definitely not a bag full of drugs. All right.
Well, they'll get us on this one, but they can't get us on the drugs.
You know what they won't be able to get us on? Lying.
Oh, my God.
Who wins today, guys?
Well, I'm going to go with definitely not a bag of drugs.
Yeah.
Bag of drugs 2, electric boogaloo. I'm going to go with that one. It is not that story's fault, but I do like stories that have a little more originality for weekly winners.
This is true.
And so I'm going to go with Have You Seen My Wiener?
We have had a bag of drugs story advance to the final, and it did not perform. It did not win the month.
No.
We've never had a story where two people at a nursing home got in a stabbing fight over Vienna sausages that may or may not have been stolen in the first place. You know, those folks are in a nursing home. Maybe the memory's a little spotty.
Yeah,
maybe they just forgot they ate the Vienna sausages.
Right.
Like, you didn't lose them. They weren't stolen. You ate them yesterday. And somebody got stabbed over that. Knifed in the chest.
Yeah.
Have you seen my wieners wire to wire? Or What Is Wrong With You champion for this week of October. We are going to take a break. When we come back, K-State's going to Boulder. Why the burden of proof is on the Wildcats. That's next on 580 Sports Talk. .441 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzynski, Spencer Dupuis hanging out with you on this Friday afternoon. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line. 785-272-9429 is the number. 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field.
We've got good news and bad news for college game day this week, going up to Eugene.
Is that right?
Yeah, good news and bad news. Bad news first. I always like to start with bad news. I like to be let down and then built back up instead of vice versa.
That's fine.
No Lee Corso again. Not able to go. He loves Eugene. We know Ooh. Well, these are maybe his two favorite mascot heads.
Yes, they really are. The
Brutus and the Duck.
Yeah, Brutus and the Duck.
Yeah, so
I know the Duck's name isn't Puddles. I like calling him Puddles.
That's fair enough. So that's a bummer. That obviously sucks. I know he doesn't have his fastball anymore, but I mean, the man's 88?
89. He turned 89 August 7th.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing he can get anywhere at this point, honestly. So certainly a bummer for him. Good news, though. Have you seen who the guest picker is? You seen?
I saw it, but I don't.
Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, that's who it was.
And her new show on ABC, which I've heard from some people they really like. From some people they think it is terrible. Yeah, sounds about right. Like a ABC
primetime,
hour-long
drama. Yeah.
Caitlin Olsen's hilarious, and she is tremendous on It's Always Sunny. Has been from the very beginning. Most likely cast member to interrupt her and go, "Shut up, bird." It's obviously Pat McAfee, but
yes,
I don't know. I could see Reese being a Sunny guy.
Yes, 100%.
I could see that. Certainly more than Kirk. No way Kirk's than It's Always Sunny.
Do you think Nick watches it?
No,
I don't think Nick Saban has watched.
Although, man,
the FX network one time in his life.
I tell you what, if Caitlin Olsen says, like, I'm picking Ole Miss in Death Valley, Nick Saban going, B, you dumb bird. Triple platinum, no features.
Hey, it's starting to come out.
In game day history.
He's starting to get out of his shell a little bit more.
I know. He's really good.
Yeah, he's enjoying himself.
He's good on game day. I knew he'd be good on TV. He's always been rough with the media, but in a different way than Belichick was. Belichick is addicted to cameras.
Yes.
Addicted to them.
He's not bad, though.
No, he's not bad. He
also has a better TV personality than he did when he was a head coach.
Yeah. When he was a head coach, he was giving you what he wanted to give you. And now that he's not a head coach, he's giving you what he wants to give you in a different way.
He's divorced, dating a 20-something with all the time in the world on his hands.
My man's wearing like Taylor Swift tours, sweatshirts on the beach.
Did you hear he was asked about that?
Washington.
He was just there.
Yeah, no, he's there all the time.
So he was asked about that on Pat McAfee's show on Monday, I think, when he came on, and he said, I'm wearing a Washington Huskies sweatshirt right now. I had a great weekend up there. He just completely just didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, he loves the camera. Now, Saban's good, but I'm excited for Caitlin Olsen. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that will be a good time.
And
obviously,
a big supporter of her alma mater at U of O. Yeah.
And that's one of the best games of the weekend by far, the Oregon-Ohio State game. The other big game, Red River Shootout, Texas and Oklahoma. Big games in the Big 12 this week. It's a fascinating Big 12 week. Up and down the schedule, you've got West Virginia, Iowa State, I think is really interesting. Utah, Arizona State tonight. That could be a lot of fun in Tempe.
Maybe we will get Cam Rising.
Maybe we will.
Maybe.
It looks like we are.
Who can say? I will not believe that he is going to play until he breaks the huddle.
Right. I agree.
Literally. And then does it again on the next play. Like he can come out and just hand off and then just check out. Like that wouldn't really surprise me either. But
the Big 12 doesn't have to do availability reports, do they?
They do not. No, that is not a conference standard. So that's why Kyle Whittingham can play games with everybody's emotions and talk about Cam Rising as though he's a real person who exists when there's not a lot of evidence to the contrary at this point. So there's a big game in Boulder. Kansas State heading to play Colorado. That game kicks at 9:15 Central Time. And folks, this is just going to be the reality that you're going to have to get used to in the new Big 12, that when you play at one of the 5 schools west in the Mountain or Pacific time zone, if you are playing at Colorado, Utah, BYU, Arizona, or Arizona State, more likely than not, you are kicking at 9:15 Central Time. More likely than not, this is going to be what it is.
Or tipping.
especially if your team is good.
Or tipping is the basketball schedule came out for Kansas, and there's a 9:15 tip on there, I think. Or
10
9.
o'clock. They play at 10.
9:15
KU.
local.
Yes.
It's 10 o'clock here.
Yeah.
10 o'clock
It's-
Central for KU Colorado.
It's
Yeah.
the third leg of Big Monday, which, for what it's worth, 3 parts of Big Monday is awesome.
Yeah, it rocks.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So that is
Get used to it.
yeah,
It's not going away.
that's the reality of the situation, especially if your team is good. Like, you would rather be in the 9:15 time slot on ESPN than get the 7 o'clock time slot that Arizona State KU got last week. And the reason that got that time slot is because KU's not very good this year. And the reason that you're playing at 9:15 is because Colorado and K-State are interesting. So you'd rather be interesting than not, but that's part of the trade-off in the new Big 12. One point that really strikes me about Colorado going into this game, they're 4-1. And the way they played their last time out against UCF, they felt more like a real football team and not just like the Coach Prime variety hour for the first time in the season plus that he's been their head coach. Last year in the Pac-12, it felt like every week, whoever was playing Colorado, that was their Super Bowl. It felt like the biggest deal on every team's schedule that they were licking their chops to get a crack at Coach Prime and Colorado. Oregon very obviously was. USC very obviously was. Stanford came back from 29 down on the road to beat them in double overtime. Like, they got everybody's best last year. Now, we're only 2 games into their new life in the Big 12. It doesn't feel like the Big 12 is treating these Colorado games the same way. And there are a lot of reasons that might be the case. Like, you don't have, like, the historic rivalry necessarily. Now you do with Kansas State a little bit. That goes back to the Big 8 days. But, like, Baylor and UCF don't have a lot of history with Colorado. So that's part of it. And I think the other part of it, too, is some of the hype died down a little bit after Colorado went 4-8 last year. But broadly, I don't think Colorado's getting everybody's best shot. And I don't think they got UCF's best shot last time. And I think there's a very real chance that UCF just stinks. That UCF isn't good enough in the trenches to be as good a football team as I thought. And that KJ Jefferson just hasn't gotten better as a player. And I overrated UCF. And that could be a big part of the reason why CU did to them what they did to them.
KJ Jefferson, unfortunately, is this year's winner of the Anu Solomon Award for a guy who looked awesome when he was very young and has never improved.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. And sometimes that's why those guys are playing 5-6 years in college, because they just don't get better or not better enough to go on to the next level. Here's the thing about this matchup for Kansas State and why I say the burden of proof is on the Wildcats this weekend. Colorado has the best player in this game. Agreed?
Yes.
Like, yes. No dispute. Travis Hunter, not only the best player in this game, the best player in college football. Best player in every game he steps on the field. They also have the best quarterback in this game. And I like Avery Johnson very much, but Shadur Sanders has played very, very well this season.
The offensive line seems to have held up.
They're playing a little better. Again, that was against Baylor. And no, they were actually terrible against Baylor. It was against UCF that they looked functional, really, for the first time. They make a ton of explosive plays in the passing game, which has been an Achilles heel for Kansas State. And they're playing at home at night. And the last time K-State went west to play on the road at night was the BYU game. That is a scary set of circumstances. We have not seen Kansas State play well on the road this year. It has not happened to date. So going into this game,
You wouldn't call the Tulane game playing well?
no, they were down 10 at halftime. Like, they rallied back and they won, but that was not, I mean,
Okay.
they
That's
gave
fair
up
enough.
they gave up a billion yards to a true freshman quarterback. Like, defensively, they did not play well.
Fair enough.
I'll say that. We haven't seen their best football on the road. If you want to, meet in the middle, I think that's where we can meet in the middle. Like, their best games this year have been at Bill Snyder Family Stadium and not on the road. So that's why I say the burden of proof is on Kansas State, even as favorites in this game. And last I saw at Prairie Band, they were 3.5-point favorites, which that line was started at 5.5, and it's gone down. It's moved towards Colorado, which Colorado brings in a lot of money, no matter what the sports book is you're dealing with. So that doesn't necessarily surprise me that much. But Kansas State has to prove that they can play mistake-free football away from home. They have to prove that a road atmosphere will not rattle them. They have to prove that to me. Now, I think they can do it. I still think K-State wins the game, but they've got to show me they can do it. And they got to show, I think, a lot of people that they can do it. If we're going to start talking about them again as a bona fide college football playoff contender, this is the kind of game you have to go and win. You got an advantage in the trenches. Kansas State should be better both ways in the trenches. And if they avoid turnovers, I think Kansas State, if they play the kind of football game they want to play, essentially if they play the first 28 minutes of the BYU game for 60 minutes, I think they'll win. And I think they'll win without too much trouble. But there are some things that Colorado does, specifically create big plays in the passing game, that have me a little trepidatious.
I don't like the matchup of K-State's secondary against Travis Hunter. I don't. Or really the vertical threats overall for Colorado. Well, I know who he is. The other receiver.
LeJontay Wester.
No.
Shepard.
Oh my God, this is killing me. I know the kid's name. I'm gonna see
Marion Cooper.
I'm gonna see him and I'm gonna be furious that I can't remember who I'm thinking of. Anyway, I don't love the matchup of K-State's secondary versus Colorado's passing game, deep passing game. Here's the thing, though. I don't believe that Colorado is real. Like, I don't believe that what we saw against UCF is for real. I don't. That was such a classic Gus Malzahn game. Auburn saw that game every 3 weeks for 8 years or whatever it was.
Total yardage was pretty similar. The big difference was the 4 turnovers in the splash plays. And if K-State can avoid turning the ball over 4 times and losing the turnover battle by 3, they'll be in much better shape.
I just don't buy in all the way. I think the game against BYU was just a classic everything went wrong all at the exact same time game. I do not think that's going to happen again. I also think BYU is a better coach team than Colorado is. So yeah. I think K-State is going to end up winning this game. I think there will be moments where you're trying to pull your hair out because Travis Hunter got deep, and how do you let that guy get behind you? But I like K-State to win this one.
Yeah, as long as they limit splash plays defensively and they don't turn the ball over, I think they'll win. I think that there are a lot of paths to winning. That's the path to losing for Kansas State.
How many players in college are listed as athlete? That's a recruiting thing.
Yeah, that's a CFB 25 thing.
Yeah,
I can't think.
That's how you move a guy to a position later on, but not truly your whole career.
Right. Like, I don't know that I've ever actually seen that on a college roster.
There's only one of him.
Yeah, no, it's true. And he is incredible. He is truly, truly incredible.
We'll take a break. Come back with On Second Thought to wrap up the 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. On second thought, I thought the Royals were going to beat the Yankees in that division series. I did not foresee 2, 3, 4 in the order going 6 for 49 in the series. To be fair to me, who would have expected such a thing? But it was there for the taking for the Royals. It wasn't like they got stomped, blown out, outclassed. They lost they lost 3 close games. That's baseball.
On second thought, I'm sure at some point in my life I thought robots were cool. More and more as I get older, I don't think they're cool whatsoever. Today I saw Elon Musk's bartending robot and a bunch of misanthropic tech dudes saying this is the future. Haha, bartenders. No, bad, terrible, awful. Robots, bad. I'm out.
Yeah, it's a very slow robot. Have those people think that robot can like work a full bar on a Saturday night ever been to a bar? I'm guessing no.
No robot can ever make a comment about my sick Charles Barkley Nirvana t-shirt. So I'm out.
I thought I was going to be able to make it through last night's game. Unfortunately, last thing I remember is 8th inning and Aaron Judge being walked.
Hey,
those early mornings on Ag,
the EAP,
they catch up to you.
The EAP comes for the best of us. I'm out of here for high school football. Seaman and Shawnee High tonight going to be a barn burner. We got one more hour, 580 Sports Talk next.
Sports Talk on this Feel Good Friday afternoon. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Joining me for headlines anyway, it's Spencer Dupuis. What's going on, Spencer?
Yeah, about 30 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes, and then I'll be making that trek out to, is it Tecumseh?
Tecumseh.
Tecumseh, that's what I thought.
Yes, there are certain people who don't know that, who broadcast things in this area. It is Tecumseh, though. In a lot of other parts of the country, it's Tecumseh. Like where I grew up, I was never a Boy Scout. When I was in Cub Scouts, we'd go camping at Camp Tecumseh. Here, though, it's Tecumseh.
Yeah, every state's got a different variation for how to say things.
This will be your first time at Lester Wetter Field.
Yes.
Fun place to go. Always a fun game out there. Good to see Jason Swift, Jared Swafford, head coaches for tonight's game. Great rivalry. Have you gotten to see both Seaman and Shawnee Heights already this year?
Yes.
Okay. This is a great rivalry.
I believe so.
Yeah, a lot of fun getting out there. They always have a great setup and, food trucks and stuff. Always a fun time.
Yeah, Seaman does that.
Yeah, Seaman does too.
That was wild for me to go to because I hadn't been to that game and hadn't been to their field. Then I drove up and I was like, oh, this is like a whole event.
Oh yeah. Oh,
it's pretty
Seaman
cool.
Football, Shawnee Heights football, all of our programs nearby. It's a big deal. It is a big old deal. And this is a great rivalry game. Fun that we're getting it back half of the season this year. It had been week 3 the last 2 years. Very fun that it's back half of the season this year. So looking forward to that. Pre-game will begin at 6:30.
6:35.
6:35, thank you. Following the 580 Preps Football Coaches Club coming up at the top of the hour. And then Spencer will be with Dan and Greg Akagi for our high school football action tonight. Kickoff set for 7 o'clock from Tecumseh. Here in this final hour of 580 Sports Talk today, we've got our headlines coming up here in just a moment. We're also going to rehash a headline, but I didn't get to talk about it yesterday, so we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. We will also hear from K-State's Hadley Panzer, senior offensive lineman. Spoke with Dan earlier this week, so we'll hear from Hadley. Plus, we will look ahead to the Week 6 slate in the NFL. I don't know if this is going to be a regular thing, but it works out this way this week. We're going to give you the game of the weekend, our loser leaves town game of the week, and all the other games that will be aired locally. We'll preview all of those since there's no Chiefs game coming up this weekend. We want to hear from you as well. Top City Metal Supply text line number 785-272-9429, or hit us up on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Just like the name of the show, it's the name of the YouTube channel. Subscribe to us while you're there. We're getting right up against 650 subscribers. Really appreciate all you guys. Subscribe if you haven't. Hang out with us in the live YouTube comments. They have been popping off all day today. Our guy MPM asks, Tropicana Field next year after Hurricane Milton tore through Central Florida.
Devastating.
Oh, just awful. The Southeast has just been
back to
brutalized.
back.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. Says, do they repair the roof at Tropicana or do they use it to extort money to build a new stadium? I told them in the YouTube comments, I think the answer is yes and yes.
Yes. And yes.
I think they're going to try both of those approaches. So we want to hear from you, Top City Metal Supply text line or in the YouTube live comments feed. All right, Spencer, let's get to them. Our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. I want to start with headlines that actually you got to yesterday, not all of them, but I did not get a chance to talk about the Big 12 preseason honors for basketball that came out yesterday. The new 16-team preseason coaches poll was released yesterday, along with the all-conference preseason players. Number 1 in the poll, KU. Houston comes in number 2. My computer is, per usual, exceedingly slow right now, so it's taking me a moment to actually pull up the poll. Here it is. KU got 9 first-place votes. Houston finished second. KU, this is interesting, had 4 more first-place votes than Houston. Only 4 points higher in the poll, though. So Houston was picked higher than KU more often, but KU got more first-place votes. I think that's very interesting.
Yep.
I think this KU team is going to be really dang good, to be completely honest with you. We are really close to the start of the season. We are just about 2.5 weeks now from the season opening exhibition game between KU and Washburn. The Hawks also have an exhibition game against Arkansas, a scrimmage, if you will, against Arkansas. That'll be in Fayetteville at Bud Walton Arena.
Might get on the SEC network.
I would not be surprised if it was. Last year when KU did that against Illinois in Champaign, they put it on Big Ten Network.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised by that at all. Houston coming in second, Iowa State third, Baylor fourth, Arizona fifth, Cincinnati.
Getting some
6th,
love.
my guy Wes Miller. 7th, Texas Tech. 8th, Kansas State. 9th, BYU. And then the rest is irrelevant for our purposes at this very moment. Utah came in last, by the way. That's very funny. I think KU will win the league. I think K-State is going to finish top 6. I would love to say top 4 or 5. I'm a little hesitant to do so. I have questions about how some of the pieces will fit. I think K-State's a tournament team. Let's just put that out there right now. I think K-State's a tournament team. I think there is way too much talent, way too much good coaching. I think K-State is going to indeed make it to the NCAA tournament this year, probably get a top 5 seed. Not worried about that. Where they'll finish in the Big 12, I don't know, but this is a league that should have, what, Spencer, at least 9 teams make it?
Yeah.
I would say at least 9 are going to get in. I would not be surprised if 10. The teams that are picked 1 through 10, 9 and 10 are BYU, TCU. Would not be surprised if any of those top 10 teams end up making it into the NCAA tournament, or all of them making it to the NCAA tournament. I do think KU wins the league this year. Houston's good. I do not think they will be as good without Jamal Shedd going forward. I love this KU team. I love the roster. I love the depth. I think KU's best team in the conference. Even with a really good conference, I think KU is the best team in it. Your preseason player of the year, Hunter Dickinson. He is also the only unanimous preseason all Big 12 first team selection. The other first teamers, Caleb Love from Arizona. Are you kidding me? Come on. We're still doing the Caleb Love thing? All right. LJ Cryer at Houston, Juwan Roberts at Houston, and Tamin Lipsey at Iowa State. I do not enjoy watching Tamin Lipsey's game. I'm just going to tell you right now, unethical hooping is how the kids would describe that these days. People are going to rag on Hunter Dickinson because the lasting image of last season is just getting picked apart in the pick and roll by Gonzaga in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Hunter Dickinson has limitations defensively. Yes, we all know that. He is still an awesome player, a phenomenal college basketball player, and he deserves to have that honor for the second year in a row. Newcomers of the year, it's a co-award. Coleman Hawkins at K-State, Jeremy Roach at Baylor. Coleman Hawkins is a really good player. I know some folks have said, well, a guy with those stats is your newcomer of the year. Yeah, Coleman Hawkins is a really good player. It goes beyond just total points. VJ Edgecombe at Baylor, your freshman of the year. No problems with any of that. Coleman Hawkins and DeJuan Harris from K-State and KU, respectively, also preseason all Big 12 second team. I have no problems with any of this. Not one bit. I think Coleman Hawkins is going to be K-State's best player. I'm glad DeJuan Harris getting some recognition, even if he's not going to put up huge numbers. I don't think DeJuan Harris is going to end up on one of the first 2 all Big 12 teams at the end of the season, Spencer, because I don't think they're going to need to play him as much.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. I know you don't like Jeff Goodman, but I did. I listened to the podcast that he had on Field of 68.
Good insight.
Yes, but I listened to his podcast on Field of 68 where he had Coach Self on, and that was more for a fact-finding mission. That wasn't just to listen to it.
Sure.
It was more for content. And, you know, he said the whole point of this roster is so the guys that you saw last year squeaking out 35 plus minutes a game don't have to go above 26 to 20 to 30.
I assume we'll see about 30 for DeJuan Harris, but I like DeJuan Harris, period. But I like DeJuan Harris a lot more playing 30 minutes than playing 37 minutes a game or 40 minutes a game. Love that a lot. You'll see plenty of Zeke Mayo, who's gotten so much hype from Bill Self during this offseason. I love the setup for this KU team. And I think Hunter Dickinson's going to have a chance at 20 and 10 again this year. He's that good. And he deserves to have this honor because he's a really good player, even if he's bad guarding the pick and roll. So I wanted to make sure I got that in. I am so excited for basketball season. I feel like I'm more hyped for the college basketball season than I generally am. And frankly, just being honest, being a KU fan, you're usually pretty excited for the KU basketball season. So I'm fired up about it. Wanted to make sure we got to that, even though Spencer covered a lot of it yesterday. With that, let's segue. Spencer, what is your first headline for today?
I'm going to go with a bulk of NFL injury news here. 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan confirmed that running back Jordan Mason suffered an AC joint sprain to his shoulder last night. He is now day-to-day. They did, though, or will next week, the 49ers will open the practice window for Christian McCaffrey. That's a great sign for Christian McCaffrey, one of the best players in the league, CMC, and he's unfortunately been sidelined due to Achilles injuries. He's not expected to play, though, against the Chiefs. According to Jeremy Fowler, Anthony Richardson is tracking to play for the Colts Sunday against the Titans, but Jonathan Taylor will be out. Some other news here is Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs, they were both full participants. They're questionable, according to Field Yates. The Steelers did not list quarterback Russell Wilson on the injury report this week for the first time this season. So what does that mean? Not too sure.
If you were Mike Tomlin, you're still starting Fields, right?
Oh yeah, until he screws the pooch, I'm starting him. He's not been the best, but he's not been the greatest.
Not been the worst.
He's not been the worst. He's not been the best. Sorry.
He hasn't been the best or greatest. Oh,
yes.
Well, shoot. Yeah, I honestly, and you know me as a Justin Fields hater, I think even if he has a bad game, you don't bench him. I think they have pretty clearly made their line in the sand that they want to go with Justin Fields over Russell Wilson, and it's working. And I think you have to give him some grace, even if he has a bad game. Now, if they lose 3 in a row and he is, posting horrific numbers, okay, yeah, you go to Russ. You come off the bench, you go with Russ, you try to get that offense ignited. I think you got to stick with Fields.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Some other news here. Saints ruled out Taysom Hill, so he'll miss another game versus the Bucks. They removed Alvin Kamara and Rashid Shaheed from their injury reports. They're good to go. Bucks running back Rashad White is listed on the injury report as doubtful for that game. The Raiders have placed Michael Mayer on reserve non-football injury list with a personal matter. You mentioned it earlier. Ramondre Stevenson is out Sunday. The Chargers have ruled Gus Edwards out versus the Broncos while listing Joey Bosa as questionable.
I don't think I mentioned Ramondre Stevenson, but I appreciate you giving me credit for that.
I think you did.
Might have been Dan.
Somebody
Dan picked that game.
Yeah, somebody mentioned Ramondre Stevenson.
I'll take credit from Dan. That's
and
fine.
There are reports out there that Malik Neighbors, who is out this week, was at a concert the other night.
Yeah, so Travis Scott was at the Meadowlands this week. And, Giant Stadium, MetLife Stadium, whatever they call it. That's the Meadowlands to me. I personally, if I had a concussion, would not go to a Travis Scott concert. The rapper, a lot of dancing, loud music, stomping, all that, flashing lights, all that. I probably would not go to that. Brian Dable said that would be handled in-house.
Yep.
I don't think it's a huge deal, to be honest with you.
Just a bad look.
It's bad optics. The Giants always seem to have bad optics. Like, they're never the good optics team. They're always the bad optics team. We had one question here from Vance on YouTube. Is Cooper Kupp coming back next week? He's killing my fantasy team. That's what Sean McVay said. They're saying they hope they can get him back in week 7 next week. The Rams the Rams are just beat to hell. They have so little depth left. Their whole offensive line is beaten up. Plus, they had their left tackle, Alaric Jackson, suspended for 2 weeks to start the year. Their wide receivers, Nakua and Kupp, they've been all banged up. Their defense is a sieve right now. I picked them to win that division. I liked the team on paper pre-injuries, pre-camp, but yikes, they are falling apart at the seams. Next headline for me today here on 580 Sports Talk. How about this? Let's continue with the NFL notes here, Spencer. This actually popped up yesterday. I don't know if you got to this, but Hassan Reddick yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I meant to get to that.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad we haven't gotten to it yet. So Hassan Reddick, as you know, he is not currently playing with the New York Jets. He was traded to the Jets for a 3rd-round pick this offseason, swapped for Bryce Huff. Now, Bryce Huff has been terrible for the Eagles, but he's also actually played for the Eagles. Hassan Reddick never reported to camp. He didn't report to OTAs. He didn't report to minicamp or training camp. Has not reported at all so far this season. He has missed 5 games with a game check, Spencer, of nearly $800,000 per game. He has given up over $4 million in game checks. Plus, for not reporting to training camp or any other point during the season, his NFL mandated fines that the Jets have to assign him, $5 million. This man has given up $9 million not reporting to the Jets. That is crazy. And his agents, they've had enough. His own agency fired. Tons of athletes, tons of media people, celebrities, etc. They have backed out of their agreement with Hassan Reddick. How often do you see an agent fire the player?
Don't typically see that.
That's insane.
The only time you see that is if they've done something really bad.
Like illegal.
Yeah.
Like Drew Rosenhaus even through most of Antonio Brown's stuff, stuck with Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So clearly the agency said, we had a good deal on the table for you. You turned it down. You're not only costing yourself money, you are now costing us money. I don't know what the agent fee is, to be completely honest with you. Was it 3%? 5%? If it's 5%, I mean, that's costing the agency $450,000 on top of the commission for the deal they would have been earning. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. It's hard to imagine, no matter what you do in life, just giving up $9 million.
You're leaving free money on the table.
Yeah, that is absolutely ridiculous. His agency fired him. That's crazy. Real quick interruption, Spencer. Let's get back to what you were talking about earlier with some of the injury notes around the NFL. Tyler on YouTube, he says, CMC going to play against the Chiefs? Kind of feels like they're trying to line it up for that.
They say he won't play next week, though.
Oh, he's already said he's out next week.
Yeah, they said they're just going to open his window.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So Tyler, that answers your question. All right. That's good to know then. All right. Let's get to your next headline.
My next headline, we go to another lawsuit involving colleges. Former LSU player Greg Brooks Jr. has filed a lawsuit against the school medical center for negligence that led to emergency brain surgery.
Yikes.
The former LSU football player and team captain, whose career ended after the discovery of a brain tumor last fall, is suing the school and its affiliated medical center for negligence. He's accusing coaches of inaction and athletic trainers of misdiagnosis, as well as levying claims against the surgeon who operated on him. The 13-page lawsuit filed in August in East Baton Rouge Parish, obtained on Thursday by Yahoo Sports, unearthed unreported details of the timeline of events last year that led to the Brooks unexpected turn of events, from the star safety in the SEC with NFL aspirations to now a permanently disabled man who's still a year after surgery cannot walk. So
that is horrific.
Horrific is, yes, like not able to walk. From the surgery, he developed a condition known as posterior fossa syndrome, a post-operative issue occurring in some patients with a range of symptoms that include impacts on speech, motor skills, and behavior. His neurological injuries are a, quote, direct result of these neurosurgeons' malpractice, the complaint says.
That's crazy. I mean, I have no idea how much legitimacy there is to these claims, obviously, where you might never know exactly. Am I shocked that a college football program maybe was not taking the swiftest action to keep a player safe or monitor a situation? I don't want to assume the worst. And I think many programs do handle these things correctly and have saved lives and have taken care of these athletes. It's not a common thing. But we have seen these stories. We remember DJ Durkin at Maryland. You were fairly close to that situation in that part of the country when Jordan McNair died. When DJ Durkin, for all intents and purposes, his actions led directly to Jordan McNair's death, and it's sickening that he's still allowed to coach.
Even the Trent Williams with the
command. Well, the then Redskins. Yeah. I mean, that's an insane situation. And let's also be blunt about this. And I'm not trying to assign any guilt. I don't know. Brian Kelly, under his watch, once had a student assistant for the football team die at a Notre Dame practice, telling him to get up on a scissor lift in a storm. The kid fell to his death. Like, Brian Kelly, not always the most on top of things in his career when it comes to the safety of the people under his watch. So I don't know. I am not assigning guilt to anyone, but this story is tragic and it is horrific. Prime of your physical life. You're in college. You're a team captain for an SEC program. You got your whole life in front of you. A year later, you can't even walk. That is horrific. And I hope if anyone was indeed at fault that they are brought to justice for that. Awful, awful story for Greg Brooks. That is going to do it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines regarding our Hassan Reddick one. Mark on YouTube. Reddick, what a doofus. Yeah, 100%. Spencer, you are on your way to Lester Wetter Field in Tecumseh for some high school football, Seaman versus Shawnee Heights. When we come back, we've got this week's K-State player profile. We will hear from Hadley Panzer of K-State, the native of Lakin. That's coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. 529 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski here with you. Spencer Dupuis is on his way to join Dan Lucero at Lester Wetter Field in Tecumseh for tonight's Lewis Toyota high school football game of the week. Seaman versus Shawnee Heights. What a great rivalry game here in Northeast Kansas. Meanwhile, here on 580 Sports Talk, we're with you until 6 o'clock. As soon as we are done, we'll take you to the 580 Preps High School Football Coaches Club. Dan spoke with all of our city head coaches. You'll hear from them coming up between 6:05 and 6:35 today, following our top of the hour news, and then into pregame coverage for our Lewis Toyota high school football game of the week. But right now, we are getting ready for K-State versus Colorado coming up this weekend in Boulder, and it's time for our K-State player profile. Dan was able to run down Lakin's own Hadley Panzer, the in-state product, been a great player for K-State for all these years. Let's hear from the veteran offensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats, Hadley Panzer.
Joining us this week for our K-State player profile is the senior offensive lineman from Lakin, Kansas, Hadley Panzer. And Hadley, you had an opportunity to have a bye week this past week. And so my first question for you is, as you're back to it and getting ready for another game this week, did the bye week re-energize you, recharge your batteries a little bit? How you feeling coming off the off week?
Yeah, no doubt. I think with any bye week, you get a few days off that you don't have any days where you're putting the pads on and getting those contacts. So, yeah, it is a good time to hit the reset button, recharge a little bit, and then, pulling back into Manhattan last night that, you just getting geared up to get back going again.
How did you spend your bye week, your Saturday without a game?
I went back home, actually. Went back to Lakin, and I got to watch my brother-in-law play his high school game on Friday night. So they played Southwestern Heights, and they beat him pretty handily. So,
well, as the only member of the 580 Sports Talk crew who's actually been to Lakin, Kansas, I spent a couple of years working in Colby, so I know Western Kansas, Northwest Kansas a little bit. Tell me a little bit about what it was like to grow up there and how you maybe kind of look and reflect and think, man, I've really come a long way going back home and thinking that, man, from here, I made it to Manhattan. I made it to the starting offensive line of the Kansas State Wildcats. What was that journey like for you? And how does that feel as you get a chance to reflect on it?
Yeah, it is always great, to reflect on it, just to, think of where I've come from. But really, there's a great support in the community of Lakin. And that's what's really helped me, be able to keep on going here is, I got so many people that are supporting me and that want the best for me, from back home. And I don't take that for granted at all. And I know that, maybe not a lot of people come out of Western Kansas to play sports here. But I don't take it for granted. And if I try to help as many people as I can, whenever I'm here and with their kids, coming to college too. So, growing up there in Lakin, small community, everybody knows everybody, but I wouldn't trade it for the world,
I think it was the last home game where it was your turn to do the 2 truths and a lie game on the Jumbotron during one of the timeouts. Yeah. And I think one of them was, my hometown has no stoplights. So for the people, is that a truth or a lie?
That's the truth.
No stoplights in Lakin. Now, what is the thing that on a Friday night, if there's no football after football season, or even during football season after the game, what's the hangout? What do you have to do to really get the full Lakin experience?
That's a good question. I guess whenever I was in high school, that you could usually go eat at one of the restaurants there, Shorty's or I'm blanking on Flashbacks is what it's called. You get some ice cream, and then usually we just go cruise around, and just cruise Maine, cruise around the town. I mean, it don't take very long to drive all the streets in Lakin, but you do that for quite a while and just really just hang out with your buddies and stuff and talk about life, I suppose.
Hadley Panzer, senior offensive lineman from Lakin, Kansas for the Kansas State Wildcats, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. Hadley, obviously there were a lot of departures from last year's offensive line, and you've been able to come back, and this year's group has played some really good football through the first half of the season. What has been the biggest improvement you've maybe seen in yourself as a player, as a leader, as your roles and responsibilities have grown on the team throughout your K-State career?
Yeah, I think first thing that comes to mind is just the leadership aspect to it. With all those guys that had were here that were here last year and that now that are moved on. I didn't really have to say a whole lot. I mean, because you take those 4 guys or 5 guys that their voice has a pretty big impact, and I was just kind of the quote unquote the young guy behind them, but I was able to learn from them and pull so many things from them that I'm able to implement now. But for me, I would say the biggest thing that I've grown into is just becoming a leader and finding my voice on the team and being a leader for the team.
Who were the veterans that you remember from your early days in the program that were really influential to you and kind of showed you, this is how I want to prepare, this is how I want to work, this is how I want to become the player I want to become, and that maybe you've modeled yourself, whether consciously or not, after as you've gone along?
Yeah, I call him my mentor just because everything that I know whenever I first came in here was from him, was Noah Johnson. And, I run with him on away games and home games and whatnot. And he was able to just help teach me so many things about the game and just what to look for, what to be thinking about in situations and stuff. So he's the one that's really kind of helped me grow into the player that I am today. Obviously another one would be Cooper. He's helped me so much too with being able to read defenses and how to prepare for a game coming up.
Hadley Panzer joining us, the senior offensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats here on 580 Sports Talk. Hadley, of course, the offensive line room is so tight-knit always on every football team. It's one of the tightest-knit groups because only you guys understand what the person next to you goes through to prepare, what they go through on any given snap. And so I want to take advantage of some of that knowledge of the guys that you go to battle with every week and every game, get to know some of those guys. So I got to ask you, which guy in the O-line room is the smartest guy? Not football smart necessarily, though that counts too. Who's the smartest guy? The guy that you look at and say, I bet you got a good score in the SAT or something like that. Who's the smartest guy in that room?
I'd probably say the smartest has to be Andrew Linegang or Drake Beckwith. I mean, they're both engineer majors, and just some of the classes that they talk about that they're taking and stuff is, I'm just going to go ahead and stick to my normal schooling. I don't need to be taking those physics and aerodynamics. That's not really in my vocabulary. But those two definitely have to be one of the smartest in the room.
Who's the funniest guy in the O-line room?
Man, I would probably, I might put myself up there. That might be kind of, something funny to say, but I don't know. I like to joke around with quite a few of the guys, but I'd put Andrew up there as one of the funniest. Michael Capria, John Pastore. I guess everybody. We all have our own kind of inside jokes that only we get. Maybe maybe something that we laugh at, but other positions would probably look at as funny. But that's just who we are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How about who is the guy that you least want to let have the aux cord in the weight room under any circumstances? Who does not get to pick the music?
That's a good one. I'd probably say Michael Capria. He's not getting the aux cord for sure.
What would he put on if he got it?
He'd put on some crazy I guess new age, or not new age, but just kind of an up and coming rap artist that I think just sounds kind of like a schoolgirl, pretty much.
Yeah, some of that high pitched stuff. Yeah, it's
it's just I don't get it.
Yeah, not for me either. Hadley Panzer is our guest here on 580 Sports Talk. Couple of more questions for you, Hadley. Your bio on the K-State website says you're majoring in entrepreneurship and innovation. What are you hoping to one day, whenever it is that your time on the football field comes to an end, what are you hoping to do with that? What kinds of things are you hoping to do in your post-playing days?
Hopefully I can, after college continue to play on. But I know it's not infinite, and that's not going to be my job forever. But I plan on going back home to farm and ranch for my in-laws and back home in Lakin. It's in between Lakin and Ulysses, so it's kind of out there a little ways. But plan on doing that, and hopefully, own my own cattle herd someday, and also, maybe farming some ground of my own too.
And last question I have for you. You were a 4-sport athlete at Lakin High School. You were a state wrestling champion. You played baseball. You were a league champion in the shot put. If you could go back and do one of those sports for just one season again, which sport would it be? Which sport do you miss the most?
I'd probably go back and do track for another season. Just because for a bigger guy like myself, I'm not doing any running events or anything, so I just throw the shot and disc, and then I just get to hang out with the boys. So that'd probably be something that I'd like to do again.
Hadley Panzer, senior offensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats, the pride of Lakin, Kansas. Hadley, we appreciate getting to know you and your teammates a little better today. Best of luck to you and the rest of your teammates as you head out to Boulder this Saturday to take on the Buffaloes.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That is Hadley Panzer, senior offensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats. Really appreciate Hadley taking some time for us today. It'll be K-State versus Colorado tomorrow night, 7 o'clock pregame start time, 9:15 kickoff from Boulder for K-State versus the Buffs. You can hear all the action right here on your home for K-State Sports, 580 WIBW. Coming up on the other side of this break, we'll look ahead to the NFL Week 6 slate. Favorite game of the week, what should be the best game of the week, a loser leaves town match game of the week, and some of the other local games we'll see on TV. That's coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. 5:45 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski here with you. Don't forget, 7 o'clock kickoff tonight. We've got your Lewis Toyota High School Football Game of the Week. Seaman at Shawnee Heights, one of the best rivalries in Northeast Kansas. We cannot wait for that one coming up later on this evening. We've got the 580 Preps Coaches Club coming up at the top of the hour. Some baseball tonight. Game 5 of the NLDS, Padres versus Dodgers. I am going to pick the Padres to win. I think that my guy, Yu Darvish, is going to get it done. He gets the start tonight. Japan versus Japan on the mound. Yamamoto going for the Dodgers this evening. That's a fun matchup. Two very talented pitchers. I do think we have a very fair comment here on the YouTube feed, however. This is from our guy, Jayhawker. Says that I don't like any of the buy a championship big market teams, but I can't stand Manny Machado, so I hope the Dodgers win. Jayhawker, I do not think you are alone in that. I think there are a lot of fans around baseball who just cannot stand Manny Machado, or frankly, a lot of the guys on that Padres roster for one reason or another. I don't think you are alone in rooting for them to get knocked out. I don't really want to see the Mets make it all the way. I don't like the Mets. I picked that up from my mom, who's hated the Mets since 1969. Go do your Cubs research on that one if you need a reason why. I don't really want anyone in the National League to win from this point forward. I'd be happy for my guy, Yu Darvish. It might be my favorite guy left to get a ring, but other than that, doesn't do a whole lot for me. Wanted to get to the upcoming NFL weekend. No Chiefs football. Chiefs going into the bye week. It is really early in the year for the bye week, which is not always a good thing, but I'm not too worried about it with this Chiefs team. Funny enough, both undefeated 5-0 teams on their bye this week, both the Chiefs and the Minnesota Vikings. As for the games that we are going to see locally or our best games of the week, we're breaking them down here. My best game of the weekend, it is America's Game of the Week coming up on Sunday. Pretty much the entire country, save for Georgia and South Carolina, are going to see this one on Fox. Burkhart and Brady, Lions at Cowboys. I've got the Lions in this one. I know there are a lot of people who cover the NFL on a national level who actually came away from that Cowboys versus Steelers game last week thinking more positively about this Cowboys team. Well, the guys were able to get open. They just couldn't execute. We saw some good things from the offense. The defense limited the Steelers to just 16 points. Okay, great. The Lions offense, way better than Pittsburgh's offense, all things considered. I also am not, I just don't trust Dak. I don't. You guys know that. I have never trusted Dak Prescott. I think the Lions are built to be able to take advantage of a Cowboys defense that is putrid against the run. Efficiency numbers, total yards allowed, they are really dang bad against the run. The Lions have absolutely no problem just beating your brains in, running the ball, using Montgomery, using Gibbs, even keeping that passing game near the line of scrimmage. They'll go with double tight end sets as much as you'll let them. I like the Lions in that game. I don't have the spread in front of me from our friends over at Prairie Band, but I would take the Lions and I would take Detroit to cover. Runner up, by the way, for our game of the week this week, it's Monday night, so we'll talk about it coming up next Monday here on 580 Sports Talk. Bills-Jets, I think, is a fascinating game. I am on the Bills. I've been thinking all week, okay, Bills, bounce back spot. I like the Bills there. They're going to handle their business. But the Jets have the bump for the new head coach. It is something that is tried and true in most cases, not all. You fire the coach, you come out the next week, everybody is charged up, you put together a really strong game. I just don't buy it with this Jets team. I think the vibes are really bad in New York right now, and I'm not trying to bash Rodgers. I'm not going to be that guy. You know who that guy is. If you don't like him, fine. I get it. I think he is struggling. I do not think he is playing well. If you think he's kind of an ass, I don't blame you for feeling that way one bit. I'm not going to put it all on him. I think they've got other problems there as well. I like Buffalo, but I am curious whether or not the Jets end up getting the new interim coach bump like so many teams before them have. Our loser leaves town game of the week. This feels to me like the loser of this game. It's done. It's over. We can stop talking about, well, maybe they can make a run at the playoffs. Sunday Night Football, Bengals at Giants. Both Dan and I picked the Giants in our Prairie Band Sportsbook NFL picks for the week. I really need a win, and hey, Dan's been hot, so if we can both pick up this one, I'm not going to complain. I have the Giants covering a 3.5-point spread. This game is going to be at MetLife, the new Giant Stadium, New Meadowlands, whatever you want to call it, in East Rutherford, New Jersey. I love this Bengals offense. You know that I am a massive Joe Burrow fan. I might be the biggest Joe Burrow fan that isn't a straight-up Bengals fan this side of Cincinnati, Ohio, certainly in Northeast Kansas. He is playing out of his mind as of late. But that defense is an abomination. They are terrible. I don't know that it's all on Lou Anarumo, who I think is a good defensive coordinator. I just think their talent level is terrible. They're slow all over the field. They do not have nearly enough beef up front. I think that's going to be a really competitive game. Bengals lose, they're 1-5. It's over. We don't need to talk about them in the playoff picture anymore. Giants lose, they fall to 2-4, and given who their quarterback is and given a pretty low talent level for them, all things considered outside of Malik Neighbors, I do like their rookie running back, Tyrone Tracy. I think they're out of the playoff picture as well. I'm taking the Giants to cover. I kind of like the Bengals straight up, but with a spread that small, 3.5 points, I'm not probably going to pick it that way. I hope the Bengals win because, frankly, I like the Bengals being in a playoff chase with that offense. I think that's really fun. Chiefs fans, though, I can understand if you're rooting against Cincinnati this weekend. Final couple of games to get to here. They are all the other games this weekend that we will be able to catch live here locally. One is the national broadcast. I believe it's on NFL Network again. Jaguars versus Bears from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. I like the Bears in that one. I picked the Bears to cover a 1.5-point spread during our Prairie Band picks earlier in the show. I don't trust the Jags at all. Their defense stinks. The Bears defense is awesome. I think Caleb Williams is going to have a big game. I just don't trust this Jaguars team. And as much as I liked the hire originally, I don't trust Doug Peterson right now. Give me the Bears in London. Commanders Ravens. That's going to be the game on CBS for us here in Northeast Kansas coming up on Sunday. I took the over for this game, 51.5. I know that's a high total for the NFL. I think we're going to have points on points on points. Ravens do not have an especially good pass defense this year. The Commanders don't have a very good defense at all. Now, they do like to run the ball, and they're good at it. Baltimore's run defense has been pretty stout. I will take the Ravens because Lamar Jackson's playing really well. I don't feel very confident in that. I'm hoping for a lot of points. I hope we get a shootout in that one. It is really shaping up that it could be anyway, one of the highest scoring games of the NFL season. Finally, the one other game we get locally, we finally get a Packers game in Topeka during the noon window. I am very thankful for that. Packers versus Cardinals. Packers defensive line needs to be better than it's been throughout the season so far. Otherwise, Kyler Murray and James Conner are going to tear you to shreds. But I don't think the Cardinals defense is very good. I expect an improved performance from Jordan Love and the Packer offense this week, even after a win last week against the Rams. Give me the Packers. I think it'll be close. It's at Lambeau. For some reason, even though they've played for 100 years, Cardinals at Packers feels weird to me. I'm taking the Packers at Lambeau Field, though. We've got to get to one final break. We'll come on back, wrap up this for Football Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk after this. Wrapping up 580 Sports Talk on this Football Friday, but I'm going to baseball for my final word today. Royals fans, I understand the disappointment. We had our pal MPM on the YouTube comments earlier say it's going to take until opening day next year to get over losing in the ALDS. I totally get it. I totally sympathize. But I do hope you're able to take at least a moment in the coming hours, days, weeks, sometime this offseason to look back and say, even though this end against the Yankees was disappointing, this was an incredible year. A 31-win turnaround. It's almost unheard of in Major League Baseball. There are things to improve on for 2025, but the future is really bright with a core that's headlined by Bobby Witt Jr. and Cole Reagans, among others. We are done for the week on 580 Sports Talk. Thank you for joining us all week long on the program. We've got the 580 Preps Coaches Club coming up at the top of the hour. Then at the bottom of the hour, pregame coverage for our Lewis Toyota High School football game of the week. Tomorrow night, we've got Washburn football over on KTPK. K-State football here. National NFL coverage coming up on Sunday. We hope you enjoy it all. For Spencer Dupuis and Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Thanks for listening, as always, to 580 Sports Talk.